So much fun watching it with you guys in Texas. We're going to bring everybody up. The two gentlemen that started this whole thing, I've only been on it for 13 years. They've been on it for 15. Our producer, Casey Silver, and our writer, John Fusco. Thomas Mann. Tim Dickens. Ma Ferguson herself, Kathy Bates. Woody Harrelson. Kevin Costner.
It was such a privilege for us to be able to premiere this film. It's so gorgeous, it's so epic, it's so rich, and it's kind of in its historical value, but in topical now. But you talked about it being 13, 15 years. What took so long?
You know, sell no wine before it's time. Every once in a while it would rev up and then fall away, and we just always, Casey and John and myself always had a feeling that when it makes, it's going to be the correct version. I think we have the correct version, and we have the, look at this cast, my God, come on, how lucky am I?
They're extraordinary performances. Every single one of them are amazing. But the two gentlemen at the center, in terms of when you asked them in, or how did they say yes? When did you decide to get involved? Kevin and Woody.
I play a lot of rock and roll, so I didn't hear a word you said. Well, first off, there's nothing like being in a theater with a curtain and a full house, so thank you for coming. Can't imagine what that feels like for all the performers, that people would come and sit and watch what we labored on, and we're all so lucky to be a part of it. I got a mortgage like anybody else. I just had to. This project came to me about 10 years ago, and for whatever reason, I didn't feel that it was right for me. I don't fall out in love with something that's good. It just didn't seem like it was the right time for me. And I don't know why the planets line up the way they do, but sitting in the dark the way we do and watching this unfold, it was just, it felt like the planets really had lined up, and it was the right place to be. Thank you I really appreciate being able to participate in this film with my fellow actors and portray a chapter in a bloody chapter in American history, and the men who put their lives at risk. And I feel really lucky.
First of all, I just wanted to say, as a Texan, it's great to be back in Texas. Particularly my favorite town in Texas, Austin. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you all for showing up tonight. I know you all had a lot of options for the evening, so it's really cool you came. But the way I got involved because John Fusco wrote this extraordinary script, and when you read a script like this, you sit up and pay attention. Unlike Kevin, I didn't say this ain't the right time. I said I'm ready whenever you're ready. And he's a picky guy. No, just the most tremendous script. And John Lee Hancock, who also worked on the script, I think is a tremendous director, and so I was attached, I don't know, what was it, 42 years now? And I knew this was going to be great, and just watching it tonight with all of you and seeing how you react is, I can't tell you what a great feeling it is for all of us. We really feel lucky about it.
Thank you for your Texas hospitality, and I just want to say how proud I am to be standing up here with all you fine people, and John Lee, you call me anytime.
I will.
Casey, it's been an honor to work with you, and John, thank you, I want your hat. And Thomas and Kim and I, and you guys have had enough. Thomas and Kim and I want y'all to write something and direct it for us.
We actually have some mics here in the audience. We have a limited time for a couple of questions. If you'd like to step up to the mic, you're welcome to. Well, Casey, I'm just going to indulge this. Casey and I were actually friends in college, and we haven't seen each other for, I don't know, 30, 40 years, something like that. It's kind of crazy. So it was very exciting when I saw his name on this film, and it's just a personally exciting moment. I know it's not relevant to anybody else but me, but it's just wild to see him here. Anyway, what's interesting remembering tonight is how gorgeous the score is. I mean, I know the acting is incredible and the story is so interesting, but the score has kind of really touched me so much too.
Thomas Newman has an ability to do that. I mean, he's an amazing composer, and it's such a fun time to spend with him because he approaches it character first, like I do, like all these actors do, and he's just a gifted composer. So it's one of my favorite parts of the whole, enterprise.
Thanks. Go ahead.
First off, thanks to South by Southwest for showing this film on the big screen the way it was meant to be seen. Really enjoyed it. John, about your decision not to reveal what Bonnie and Clyde really looked like until the very end. That last shot was pretty staggering. And it was very different from the 1967 version I remember, where it seemed like there was oak trees and it was a very different kind of road. I'm curious about the actual location in Louisiana. Was that pretty close to the real deal?
We shot at the exact spot where the ambush occurred.
Wow, seriously? It hasn't changed?
Only thing that's changed is the brush used to be closer to the road and there are yellow stripes in it. So we were able to erase put some brush over it and do it. But it was very eerie, I'm sure, for these guys to be out there and go, this is exactly where it happened.
So why do we not see Bonnie and Clyde to the end?
Well, it was an original conceit of John's script saying we never get quite a good look at him, and then John Schwartzman, our DP, and myself said, let's take it one step farther even and say, let's sex them up as much as possible. Let's shoot them like a graphic novel. Let's make the colors pop so that they're sexy, they're well dressed, the cars are beautiful. Hopefully so that the viewers would be in line with a lot of the people of the time period, kind of idolizing them as being so sexy. And it's a romantic thing. And so we said, let's keep that, and then the other side of the story we'll shoot more naturalistically, and then we'll let Bonnie and Clyde come to the ambush, and all of a sudden it's very naturalistic, and you get your first look at them, and they're scrawny kids.
Yeah, is that supposed to be like, you realize they're just kids, like,
Yeah.
almost having sympathy for them, like kids in a headline.
Well, and that's why you notice at the end of the movie, there's no joy in Mudville. This isn't a, hooray, we got him. This is bad news for everybody. You feel bad, I mean, I do. I feel bad for everybody. It's like, why the hell does this stuff have to happen? And you can see it through Thomas's character. You see, there's no joy on any of these faces. This is what had to be done, and they promised it's going to be violent and bloody and ugly. And that's why it's the difficulty of the journey of these men's souls. So, yeah, and then what happens in Arcadia is grotesque. I mean, they love them when they're alive. They love them even more when they're dead.
Very effective. Thank you. Well done, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, and I'd like to congratulate you all on a beautiful movie we just saw. And I would like to ask specifically to Mr. Costner and Mr. Harrelson about other lawmen that you played in your career, the similarities and differences between these characters and other men. And more specifically to Mr. Costner about other iconic lawmen and Mass. And to Mr. Harrelson.
I need Woody to go first just to know what in the world you're talking about. And I'm not trying to be cute. I wish I could.
It's his ears.
Oh, I know what you said. You know, I've been lucky. I said that word, and I kind of want to stay aware of how lucky I've been in my life. It's not like I had a life where I wasn't bruised, not perfect, but I've had a life that I can look back on, and just sometimes it's I wouldn't even be able to find the breadcrumbs working backwards. I feel lucky, and the men that you're talking about, sometimes I played men of fiction and played real life characters. I played at Wyatt Earp. But to play a man in this particular instance, where there was the movie Bonnie and Clyde, the one, I don't know if it was 70 or 69, I was 13 or 14, I was taken with that movie. I was. The whole country was. I didn't at that point understand that he was that Frank Hamer was a combination of different people, and he was made like what John referred to as a buffoon. And so it marked me, and to understand, you know, and sometimes in fictional stories we do that, and directors get clever and they combine characters. Isn't that clever? And producers like that too, because it's not as expensive to make two characters one. But you can make a mistake. And sometimes when you're dealing with real people's lives, you can combine somebody's heroism, somebody's dedication with someone else, and you can make a terrible, terrible mistake in cinema. And it's marked me as a filmmaker what happened at that point. And so the opportunity to play people that are willing to stand in front of us, police, sheriffs, and whatever area you're talking about, is something I take really, really seriously. And I hope we all do, because they go out, sometimes we never know if they're coming back home. And the men that cleaned up the boat wake behind Bonnie and Clyde, that was a story that needed to be told. And for me, to play these characters that maybe I'm not as brave as, maybe not as smart as, has been a real privilege in my life, and to maybe set the record a little straighter for the Hamer family is something that I'm going to walk out of here tonight feeling a lot better about.
Get up.
That was No, yeah.
I feel the same way.
That's good. Because we actually have time for one more question. Actually, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you so much for putting the mics out. I really appreciate it. Question for Mr. Fusco, Mr. Hancock. I know this took 15 years in the making, but it almost felt like a modern-day crucible for what's going on in our times right now with anti-establishment glorification and mistrust in our government. Do you feel like it's perfect that it came out at this time, or that it was exigent at this moment? Was that planned at all?
Well, no, I mean, it's, I wrote the first draft 16 years ago. And so, but it's interesting because, as Kevin was mentioning, the 1967 film, which, Arthur Penn directed, it starred Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, and became this cultural touchstone in a watershed film that was so influential and incredible. But the representation of Frank Hamer was such an atrocity and an injustice that we wanted to set it right. And because the Bonnie and Clyde were glorified, criminality is some sort of soulful response to a boxed-in world at that time, was wrong. Will Hamer was made a villain. And I want to personally dedicate this screening tonight to Frank Hamer Jr., who I met here in Austin 16 years ago and asked his blessing to tell this story and set the record straight. And I also like to acknowledge the Texas Rangers that are here tonight. We got some really famous Texas Rangers here tonight. And it's a real honor to have them here. Because it's been too long that this story has gone untold. And I think that, now we've told Hamer's side of the story.
I mean, just to that point, I never looked at it as a particularly political film, and it could have been made 15 years ago, it could have been made 8 years ago. Times change. We always look at a movie through our current lens. So no matter when it's set, you're going to look at it through the lens of today. I have no opinion one way or the other about it. It was just a story I always wanted to tell. I happen to be kind of a big fan of the 1967 movie Bonnie and Clyde, and don't look at this necessarily as an antidote or anything to that movie, but more as a companion piece that does set the record straight with regard to Frank Hamer, which was very important to me as well. But just gives you another side to the story. And to be fair, I don't think '67 version was after historical truths. It was an anti-establishment movie. It was Vietnam era. It was more thematic movie than it was this is the real story. And I think they would all admit to that.
Well, thank you so much. Really, this was such a thrill and a privilege for us to be able to premiere this film. It's fantastic.